It's not every news anchor who has a section on controversies that takes up half of their Wikipedia page.
Linked to suicides. In 2006, Melinda Duckett appeared on Grace's show to discuss the disappearance of her 2-year-old son, Trenton. Grace pressed the mother for details, stating publicly that Duckett should assume responsibility for the disappearance. Before the episode could air, Duckett shot and killed herself.
But Nancy Grace is not every news anchor. She once reported on true crime and had a bit of a problem of assuming absolutely everyone was guilty. Rushing to judgment means she often gets things wrong.
Then in 2011, Tony Madrano was charged with second-degree manslaughter for accidentally killing her baby while sleeping on the couch with him after drinking a fifth of vodka. Calling her the vodka mom, Grace pushed on air for a murder charge. 3 weeks later, Madrano committed suicide by setting herself on fire.
She was humiliated when the Duke lacrosse team was acquitted of rape charges and was wrong about who kidnapped Elizabeth Smart.
You were afraid, I assume.
Yeah.
In both cases, the family sued Grace, blaming the suicides on the resultant outpouring of public shame following Grace's interviews. Grace settled both cases out of court.
But perhaps the biggest stain on her reputation is her dealings with Melinda Duckett. The 21-year-old mother came on Grace's show just 2 weeks after her 2-year-old son had been kidnapped. Grace automatically assumed she was guilty and berated her with aggressive questions for 20 minutes.
Melinda Duckett may very well know where her son was.
More lawsuits. Grace has been sued multiple times throughout her career, and not just for driving guests to suicide. According to The Hollywood Reporter, she had to issue an apology to Michael Skakel after incorrectly claiming on her show that his DNA had been found at a crime scene.
Well, what do you know? Nancy Grace back in the saddle. I'm not here to discount the fact that maybe throughout the course Nancy has done some good things. But clearly the sort of things that she's been involved with have been very damaging, right? Now, I find that this new claim that she's demanding, she's with the Karen haircut, demanding that the Rivas Hernandez family break their internet silence about their daughter's situation, as well as holding them culpable to allowing her to have contact with David Burke in the beginning, right? Which I have to kind of side with her and agree with that. However, I believe that at this point, what she's doing is pushing them over to being culpable with David Burke, right? And I don't agree with that move necessarily. So it's really a slippery slope. But as you can see, she's had a damaging effect on criminal justice. Much like, I guess, Chris McDonough. Not to really make this about him, but I just find it pretty egregious that she's demanding things from the family of a victim who are also secondary victims, right? So she's demanding some sort of response to her, to her initial demand of wanting them to come on and say something to suffice her sensibilities. And I think that is just quietly adding to the long list of debacles that Nancy has had. Now, there's also some stuff that I didn't put in the beginning intro of this that led to why she went on to study law and become a felony prosecutor. That was because at age 18, her fiance was murdered by a coworker. Now, I believe that that's a righteous push, to want to carry out justice for victims in the future. But as you've seen, it certainly sounds like with her settling lawsuits out of court, that there must have been some overwhelming evidence that would suggest that these were righteous lawsuits, right? I guess all in all, what you could really look at her as is some sort of fancy version of Bullhorn Betty, right? Like a very fancy, and she's got the Karen haircut to boot. So, I think that it's probably, as being a prosecutor, she certainly understands that throughout the course of her tenure being a felony prosecutor, that she knows the gig, right? She knows that these families have been in contact with victim advocates. They've been in contact with potentially DAs and, of course, prosecutors, grand juries to some degree. So she knows that these people have been told that in terms of the internet and your voice on the internet, that less is more, and that after the trial, there's going to be plenty of time for them to come on and, speak their piece, right? Tell their side of the story if that's what they want to do, right? So I just find it very damaging that Nancy Grace seems to be up to her old ways in terms of the way she handles victims and secondary victims, right? Not to go too deep into it, but it's painted and framed in a way that she is advocating for Celeste Rivas Hernandez by demanding her parents to make some sort of public statement. Meanwhile, leveraging the parents and their quote unquote inability to keep her from David Burke, in the end having or holding some sort of culpability to her death, right? Anyways, I guess there's probably more to come as Nancy Grace is very outspoken. And in closing, I'd like to say that the two suicide deaths that she settled out of court, this lady has a budget. She's probably wealthy to some degree. I don't know. I don't care to look up her Forbes, but she's definitely got the means to pay lawsuits, right? Even frivolous, to be able to pay for a legal representation. So it speaks volumes. And, not knowing a lot about Nancy, I'm going to dig in and kind of follow her loosely, possibly, maybe not. I don't know. But I just find that this is just adding to another long list of re-victimization for victims. Anyways, thank you for joining me. Remember, the absence of evidence is not the evidence of absence. Have a great day.